The battlefield was silent now, except for the faint hum of broken machines and the distant crackle of fires. Smoke drifted across the ruined valley where human soldiers once fought against the alien invaders. Bodies of metal and flesh lay scattered everywhere, but among them, one still moved. A human soldier named Captain Ryan Hale stepped carefully between the wreckage, his rifle raised, his eyes scanning every shadow. He had seen too many ambushes to trust even the silence. Then he heard it, a weak voice, trembling like wind through broken glass. "Please don't kill me, human." Ryan froze, his finger tightening on the trigger. From behind a shattered plasma cannon, something shifted, an alien figure, wounded, trembling, her armor shattered and glowing faintly in the dim light. Her skin shimmered like silver under the fading sun, her blood a deep violet that stained the ground. She looked up, eyes wide with fear, her hands raised in surrender. Ryan took a cautious step forward, his weapon still aimed. The alien warrior was unlike the others he had fought, smaller, thinner, her helmet cracked open to reveal a face that was almost human. She was breathing hard, every breath sounding like it might be her last. He could end her suffering right there. A simple pull of the trigger, one more enemy gone. But something stopped him. There was fear in her eyes, yes, but also something else. Exhaustion, regret, and maybe even shame. "What's your name?" Ryan asked quietly, his voice cold but curious. The alien blinked, confused, as if she couldn't believe the human was speaking instead of shooting. My name doesn't matter," she whispered, her voice weak. "I lost the battle. I lost my honor. You have the right to take my life." Her accent was strange, melodic, the words trembling as if each one cost her strength. Ryan lowered his rifle slightly, though he still kept his finger ready. "You think I want to kill you?" he said. "I've seen enough death today." The alien's lips trembled, her gaze flicking toward the sky. Her world's ships were gone, retreating. She was left behind, a soldier abandoned by her own people. "I was told humans were monsters," she said slowly. "Cold, cruel, killers without mercy." Ryan gave a bitter laugh. "Yeah, we've heard the same about your kind." For a long moment, they stared at each other through the smoke and blood. Two enemies, both broken, both tired of fighting. She tried to move, but winced. Her leg twisted under a piece of metal. Ryan hesitated, then slung his rifle on his back and stepped closer. "Don't move," he muttered, kneeling beside her. She looked shocked, her silver eyes wide as he lifted the metal off her leg. "You're helping me?" she whispered, disbelief in her tone. "I'm helping someone who doesn't need to die today," Ryan said simply. He tore a piece of his uniform and wrapped it around her wound. The alien flinched at his touch. His hand was warm, human, real, something she had been trained to hate. "You should finish it," she said again weakly. "My people would." "Then maybe that's why your people are losing," Ryan replied. Her gaze softened, her voice barely a whisper. "Maybe you're right." Ryan looked up at the horizon. The war wasn't over, but for the first time, he felt the weight of it. How many like her had he killed? How many had begged just like this? He felt something twist inside him, guilt, sorrow, and an unfamiliar spark of compassion. He couldn't leave her there, not like that. He lifted her gently, feeling how light she was, her body trembling in his arms. She tried to resist, weakly pushing against his chest, but he only said quietly, "Easy, I've got you." Her voice was fading. Why are you doing this?" "Because mercy," Ryan said softly, "is what makes us human." As he carried her toward the extraction point, the sun broke through the clouds, lighting the ruined battlefield in gold. It was strange. Among the wreckage of war, there was a small, fragile sense of peace. But Ryan didn't know that this one act of kindness would change everything. That this alien warrior, this defeated enemy, would soon stand beside him in ways he could never imagine. And the universe itself would remember the day a human chose mercy over vengeance. Because that was the moment when the war began to change. Not with a weapon, but with compassion. Not with conquest, but with a single human choice. And in the shadows, the alien whispered one last time before losing consciousness. "Maybe, humans are not the monsters we thought." The medical bay was dim, filled with the quiet hum of machines and the rhythmic beeping of a heart monitor. The alien warrior stirred on a cot, her eyes flickering open, confused and weak. White light burned her vision at first, too clean, too bright for someone who had expected darkness forever. She tried to move, but soft restraints held her down, not cruelly, just to stop her from hurting herself. Her silver skin was patched with healing foam, her leg bandaged neatly. The scent of antiseptic and metal filled the air. Across the room, Captain Ryan Hale leaned against the wall, arms crossed, watching her wake. He hadn't slept since the battle, but his gaze was steady, unreadable. When her eyes met his, she froze, the human who had spared her. Her breathing quickened, her instincts screaming that she was in enemy territory. Yet the human made no move toward his weapon. Instead, he said softly, "You're awake. That's good." She swallowed hard, her voice hoarse. "Why am I alive?" Ryan raised an eyebrow. "Because you asked me not to kill you." Her expression shifted, confusion, anger, shame, all at once. "I should not have begged," she whispered. "A warrior dies with pride." Ryan gave a dry laugh. "Yeah? Pride doesn't mean much when you're bleeding out in a crater." She turned her head away, silent. For a long moment, neither spoke. The human base outside hummed with activity. Soldiers moving, ships landing, the war still raging somewhere beyond. But in that small medical room, there was only tension, fragile but strangely human. Ryan stepped closer, setting a metal cup beside her bed. "Drink," he said. "You need it." She hesitated, then reached out slowly, her fingers trembling as she took the cup. The water was cool, clear, something she had not tasted since the invasion began. "What do I call you?" Ryan asked. She looked at him sharply. "You asked my name after saving me?" He shrugged, seemed rude not to. She hesitated, then said softly, "Talare." Ryan nodded. "All right, Talare. You can call me Ryan." Her gaze lingered on him, puzzled. "Why do you care what I call you?" "Because if I'm going to protect you," he replied, "we might as well start with names." Her eyes widened, disbelief flickering there. "Protect me," she repeated. Ryan nodded. "Command wants to interrogate you. Maybe worse, but I told them you're my responsibility now." She stared at him, utterly speechless. No one from her world would ever claim responsibility for a defeated enemy. She studied him, the human uniform torn, the skin on his hands scarred, yet his eyes carried no hate. "I don't understand," she said finally. "Mercy is weakness among my people." Ryan gave a small smile. "Then maybe that's why you lost." Her jaw tightened, but she didn't argue. For the first time, she looked down, not in shame, but in thought. Hours passed, and the room grew quieter. Ryan sat beside her now, repairing a small drone with tools. She watched him curiously, his focus, his patience. "Humans fix things," she murmured, almost to herself. "Sometimes," he replied without looking up. "Mostly we break them first." That made her laugh, a quiet, surprised sound. It startled both of them, and she quickly looked away, embarrassed. But Ryan had heard it, and something inside him softened further. He had seen too much hatred in this war, to find laughter here, even from an enemy, felt almost sacred. Later that night, when the base lights dimmed, Talare spoke again, her voice quiet. "Ryan, what happens to me now?" He looked up from his bunk. "That depends." "On what?" "On whether you still believe we're monsters," he said. She thought for a long moment, her silver eyes reflecting the faint glow of the lights. "I don't know what I believe anymore," she admitted. "But you don't act like one." Ryan smiled faintly. "Good start." Outside, thunder rolled, the storm clouds of another battle forming in the distance. But inside the small room, something new was forming too. Not trust, not yet, but the fragile beginning of understanding. Neither of them knew it, but the decision Ryan made to protect her would soon put him against his own people. And the alien he saved, Talare, would be forced to choose between loyalty to her kind and the strange, defiant mercy of one human soldier. The war was far from over. But for the first time, both of them began to wonder. Maybe peace didn't start with nations or treaties. Maybe it began right there, between two enemies who refused to see each other as monsters. And as the night deepened, Talare whispered quietly to herself, "Mercy, maybe it isn't weakness after all." The next morning came with alarms, blaring through the base like thunder. Captain Ryan Hale woke instantly, his instincts snapping to attention. He rushed out of the med bay and saw soldiers running down the corridors, weapons drawn. Through the transparent walls of the command center, a ship was descending, not enemy, but human, the insignia of Central Command gleaming on its hull. That could only mean one thing: inspection. Talare stirred weakly on the bed as Ryan returned, his jaw tight. "What's happening?" she asked, her voice still soft. "Command," Ryan said, pulling on his jacket. "They found out you're here." Her body went tense, her wounded leg trembling as she tried to sit up. "They will kill me," she whispered, fear flickering through her metallic eyes. Ryan knelt beside her, lowering his voice. "Not if I can help it." Minutes later, 3 officers entered, led by Colonel Avery, a man with cold eyes and a reputation for zero mercy. His gaze fell on the alien instantly, then shifted to Ryan. "So, it's true," Avery said slowly. "You brought an enemy combatant into a human medical wing." Ryan stood straight, unflinching. "She surrendered, sir. She was wounded. I couldn't just what?" Avery cut in sharply. "Follow orders?" "End the threat." Ryan's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. Avery turned to Talare, circling her like a predator. The alien tried to meet his gaze but flinched when he reached for her face. "Remarkable," Avery muttered. "They almost look like us." "She's not a specimen," Ryan said, voice hard. Avery turned, a faint smirk on his lips. "Then what is she, Captain?" "A guest." Ryan didn't answer, but his silence said enough. "You're compromised," Avery said. "And you know the protocol. All prisoners go to Central for debrief and containment." Ryan took a step forward. "She's not a threat. She's an alien soldier, Hale," Avery snapped. "Her people burned our colonies. Don't forget that." "I haven't," Ryan replied quietly. "But maybe that's why I can't do the same to her." Avery stared at him for a long moment, the silence thick and heavy. Finally, he said, "You have 24 hours. After that, she's off this base, whether you like it or not." Then he turned and left, the door hissing shut behind him. When the echo faded, Ryan leaned against the wall, exhaling slowly. Talare watched him, her voice barely above a whisper. "You risked yourself for me?" He looked at her, tired but steady. "Wouldn't be the first time I broke orders for something that felt right." She didn't understand it. His defiance, his compassion, it didn't fit with everything she'd been taught. Humans were supposed to conquer, not care. Later, as the night settled again, Ryan helped her walk down the corridor. She was healing, faster than expected. They moved through quiet halls lit by soft blue lights. Outside the observation windows, the storm from the previous night raged over the valley. Lightning flashed, reflecting off her skin like polished metal. "Why do you trust me?" she asked suddenly. "I don't," Ryan replied with a faint smile, "but I want to." Talare tilted her head. "Where I come from, trust is earned with blood, not kindness." "Maybe that's your problem," he said. "You think everything has to be earned through pain." She looked away, thoughtful, her expression unreadable. When they reached the outer deck, she stopped, staring at the horizon. Her world's twin moons hung faintly in the distant sky. Even from this far, she could feel their pull. "You miss your home," Ryan said quietly. Talare nodded. "I miss what it was before the war." "Yeah," Ryan murmured. "We all do." The sound of boots interrupted the moment. 2 soldiers appeared, rifles ready, faces grim. "Captain Hale," one said, "orders from Colonel Avery. The prisoner is to be transferred immediately." Ryan's fists clenched. "It's not morning yet." "New orders, sir," the soldier said, his eyes shifting nervously. Talare's heart pounded. She looked at Ryan, fear flickering again. "Ryan," she whispered. He stepped forward, blocking their path. "She's not ready to move." "That's not your call," the soldier replied, raising his weapon slightly. For a moment, no one breathed. Then Ryan spoke, voice steady, cold. "If you point that gun at her again, I'll break your arm." The soldiers hesitated. No one wanted to test Hale's temper. After a tense pause, they backed away, muttering something into their comms. Ryan turned back to Talare, his jaw set. "We don't have much time," he said. "What are you going to do?" she asked. He met her eyes. "Get you out before they decide to dissect you." For a moment, she said nothing, just stared at him, the human who risked his life again and again for her. Her voice trembled when she finally spoke. You would betray your own kind for mine? Ryan's answer was simple, quiet, but filled with something she had never heard before. I'm not betraying humanity, he said. I'm proving what it really means. Outside, the storm raged harder, the thunder echoing like distant gunfire. And in that moment, both human and alien understood. The war was no longer just between their worlds. It was now inside them, between fear and mercy, between loyalty and conscience. And it was a battle neither could afford to lose. The storm outside howled like the ghosts of the fallen, rain lashing against steel walls as lightning carved cracks of white across the sky. Inside the human base, everything was still, too still. Captain Ryan Hale moved quickly through the dim corridors, a hood pulled over his head, keeping his face hidden from the patrol drones that glided silently above. Beside him limped Talare, wrapped in a gray blanket, her alien features half hidden beneath the shadow of the hood. Keep your head down, Ryan whispered. Talare nodded, her voice quiet. Are you sure this will work? No, Ryan replied dryly. But it's better than watching them take you apart in a lab. Her heart beat fast, unfamiliar with this kind of fear, not of death, but of being saved by someone who should have been her enemy. Each step echoed through the hall, every sound feeling louder than it should. Ryan swiped his clearance card at a side door. The lock hissed, releasing with a faint click. Beyond it was the hangar, dark except for the faint glow of emergency lights. Rows of shuttles stood ready, their sleek frames gleaming in the low light. The rain outside beat against the open bay, forming silver rivers across the floor. Talare paused, breathing heavily. You're risking your career. Your life? She said. Why? Ryan stopped, turning to face her, his eyes sharp but kind. Because mercy isn't weakness, he said quietly. It's the only thing that keeps us from becoming the monsters we fight. Before she could answer, a voice echoed from the catwalk above. Well said, Captain. Ryan froze. That voice, calm but cold. Colonel Avery stepped out of the shadows, flanked by 2 armed guards, rifles trained on them. Did you really think you could sneak an enemy out under my command? Avery asked, his tone dripping with contempt. Ryan placed himself between Talare and the soldiers. Stand down, Avery ordered. You're done, Hale. Not yet, Ryan said. Avery sighed. I expected better from you. You had potential. Now you're throwing it away for her. He gestured toward Talare, his face twisting in disgust. She's not your enemy anymore, Ryan said firmly. Avery's smile faded, replaced by something darker. That's where you're wrong, Captain. She's always the enemy. The guards aimed their rifles. Talare tensed, her body trembling as faint blue light rippled under her skin, a defensive reaction from her kind. Ryan raised his hand slowly. Easy. Let's not make this worse. Avery's eyes gleamed. It's already worse. You're under arrest for treason. Then his gaze shifted toward Talare. And as for you, you'll make an excellent study subject. In that instant, Ryan moved, faster than anyone expected. He lunged, grabbing one soldier's rifle and swinging it upward, a burst of plasma lighting the air. The blast hit the ceiling, showering sparks as alarms screamed through the hangar. Talare dropped to the floor, rolling beneath a shuttle wing as Ryan fired a second shot, forcing the guards to dive for cover. Run, he shouted. Talare hesitated, her instincts fighting between fear and loyalty. But then she saw him take a hit, a burning streak across his arm. Without thinking, she ran back to him, grabbing his shoulder. Ryan, she cried. We have to go. He gritted his teeth, clutching his wound. I'm fine, just move. They sprinted toward the nearest shuttle as the hangar doors began to close. Rain whipped through the air, the storm outside merging with the chaos inside. Ryan slammed the shuttle's hatch controls, and the ramp lowered with a hiss. They stumbled inside just as Avery's voice roared behind them. Stop that ship. The engines ignited, blue fire lighting the hangar. Shots rang out. One struck the hull, another grazed Ryan's shoulder. But the shuttle roared to life, lifting off the ground. Avery's furious face vanished below as the bay doors sealed too late. Outside, the shuttle broke through the storm, lightning flashing across its wings. Talare sat in the co-pilot's seat, breathing hard, staring out at the clouds. Ryan's hands gripped the controls, his face pale but determined. Where will we go now? She asked softly. Somewhere they won't find us, he said. And maybe somewhere we can find answers. Talare looked at him, her eyes softening. You could have left me, she said. I know, Ryan replied quietly, but I didn't. She turned toward the window again, watching the endless dark beyond the clouds. Her voice trembled with something she'd never said before. Then, maybe I was wrong about humans. Ryan smiled faintly. We're full of surprises. The shuttle cut through the night, heading toward the unknown. But deep inside the base, Colonel Avery watched the radar, his eyes narrowing. Run as far as you like, Captain, he muttered. You can't hide forever. And far beyond the storm, in the blackness of space, another fleet stirred. Alien ships with markings that matched the one Ryan had saved. They had detected a distress beacon, one that Talare had unknowingly triggered. Her people were coming. And Mercy was about to be tested like never before. The shuttle tore through the atmosphere like a wounded bird, flames licking across its wings as alarms screamed from every console. Ryan fought the controls, his face streaked with sweat and blood. Brace, he shouted, his voice barely audible over the chaos. Talare gripped the seat, her knuckles white against the metal as the ground rushed up toward them. The shuttle hit the surface with a deafening crash, sliding across rock and dust before finally coming to a grinding halt. Silence followed, broken only by the distant hiss of cooling metal. Ryan groaned, forcing himself upright, his head pounding. The cabin lights flickered, sparks dancing from shattered panels. Talar, he said hoarsely, you alive? A faint voice came from the other side of the cockpit. I think so. She unbuckled herself, limping forward through the smoke, her silver skin marked with cuts that glowed faintly under the emergency lights. They had landed on a barren world, a forgotten outpost planet orbiting a dead sun. Through the cracked viewport, Ryan saw endless red dust stretching to the horizon, jagged rocks rising like broken bones. The air outside shimmered with heat and faint energy storms. It wasn't home for anyone. Where are we? Talare asked, her voice trembling slightly. Ryan checked the damaged NAV screen, somewhere uncharted. Systems not in our maps. He looked at the fuel gauge, empty. They were stranded. Hours passed as they salvaged supplies, water packs, ration bars, a small power cell. Talare's body was healing faster now, her alien physiology adapting to the planet's strange energy. Ryan, however, looked weaker, the wound on his arm still bleeding beneath the rough bandage. You need rest, she said. You're losing blood. He shook his head. We don't have time. Command will track the shuttle's crash site. Talare stared at him, frustration flickering across her face. You humans are strange, she said, always thinking of others before yourselves. Ryan gave a faint smile. You say that like it's a bad thing. Among my kind, it is, she replied softly. We are taught that mercy clouds judgment. He glanced at her. And do you still believe that? She looked down, silent for a moment, then whispered, No, not anymore. As night fell, they built a small fire near the wreck, the flames casting long shadows over the sand. The stars above were vast, unfamiliar, constellations neither of them recognized. For a while, they sat in silence, the crackle of the fire the only sound between them. Then Ryan spoke quietly. Back home, I used to think wars were simple. Us versus them. Good versus evil. Talare tilted her head, and now, he sighed, staring into the flames. Now I think we're all just trying to survive the lies we were told. She watched him, the human who had every reason to hate her, but didn't. Something in her chest, something she didn't have a word for, began to ache. You could have killed me, she said again, almost like a confession. I know, he replied, but I didn't want another ghost on my conscience. The wind picked up, carrying with it a faint mechanical hum. Talare's ears twitched. Her species could hear frequencies far above human range. Ryan, she whispered, we're not alone. He stood instantly, drawing his weapon, scanning the shadows. From the darkness emerged flickers of blue light. Drones, sleek and silent. Human drones, searching the wreck. They found us, Ryan muttered. Talare's body glowed faintly, her pulse racing. We can't fight them all. No, Ryan said. But maybe we can disappear. They ran into the rocky canyon beyond the wreck, the terrain jagged and treacherous. Behind them, beams of light swept through the dust, voices echoing through the comms of the search team. Scan the area. Bring me Hale alive. Avery's voice thundered through the static. Ryan cursed under his breath. He won't give up. After hours of running, they found shelter inside a cavern, hidden beneath layers of stone. Ryan collapsed against the wall, breathing heavily. Talare knelt beside him, pressing her hand against his wound. A faint blue energy pulsed from her palm, sealing the torn skin slowly. He winced, but didn't pull away. What are you doing? He asked. Healing you, she said simply. Consider it, returning your mercy. Ryan looked at her, the dim light illuminating her face. Eyes of silver and violet, glowing softly in the dark. For the first time, he saw no enemy there, only someone lost, like him. Thank you, he murmured. Talare smiled faintly. Don't thank me yet. They will keep hunting. Above them, the drones circled, their lights flickering against the canyon walls. Ryan stared upward, his thoughts heavy. He had defied his orders, betrayed his command, and now the only person he could trust wasn't even human. But deep down, he felt no regret, only conviction. As he drifted into uneasy sleep, Talare kept watch, her hand resting on the alien rifle beside her. In the silence of that desolate world, she whispered softly. Maybe mercy was never weakness. Maybe it was the only strength that mattered. Outside, hidden beyond the planet's storms, a shadow moved among the stars, an alien battleship, responding to the faint beacon still transmitting from Talare's armor. Her people were closer than she realized, and when they arrived, mercy would no longer be enough. The dawn on that dead planet came with a pale, golden haze, the air heavy and still. Ryan stirred awake, the pain in his arm dulled now, his mind fogged from exhaustion. Beside him, Talare sat silently at the cave's entrance, her eyes fixed on the horizon. Her armor shimmered faintly, catching fragments of the early light, but her expression was distant, almost troubled. Couldn't sleep? Ryan asked quietly, his voice rough. She shook her head. I kept hearing the signal. Ryan frowned. Signal? She looked at him slowly, guilt flickering across her face. My armor. It's transmitting. Ryan sat up sharply. You mean your people? Yes, she interrupted, her voice low. They're coming. Outside, the ground trembled with a low vibration. A deep rumble rolled across the valley like thunder, and moments later, the sky began to glow with streaks of blue fire. Warships, massive and graceful, broke through the clouds, hovering above the red desert. Talare's eyes widened, torn between hope and fear. My fleet, she whispered. They found us. Ryan grabbed his rifle and stood, his jaw tightening. This isn't good, he muttered. They'll see me as your captor. She turned to him, desperate. If I tell them you saved me, they might spare you. Might, Ryan repeated, his tone bitter. And what happens when they realize I'm the human who shot down half their invasion force? Talare didn't answer. She couldn't. Moments later, the roar of engines grew louder. From the sky descended a transport vessel, sleek, silver, and humming with energy. When it landed, the dust storm whipped around it, and through the haze stepped alien soldiers in shining armor. They surrounded the cave entrance with precision and silence, weapons ready. A commanding voice echoed, sharp and cold. Talare of the 9th Division. Step forward. Her body stiffened, the sound of her commander's voice cutting through her like a blade. She looked back at Ryan. He stood still, weapon lowered, eyes steady. Go, he said quietly, before they think I'm holding you hostage. Talare hesitated, her heart twisting. She had spent her life following orders, believing in her people's pride and superiority. But now, as she looked at Ryan, the human who had risked everything for her, she saw something her kind had never shown her, true courage. She stepped out of the cave slowly, hands raised, her voice trembling. I am here. The alien commander, a tall figure with armor that pulsed with violet light, lowered his weapon. Talare, he said, relief and anger mixing in his tone. We thought you were dead. I nearly was, she replied, until a human saved me. The soldiers murmured in confusion, their weapons shifting slightly. The commander's eyes narrowed. A human? Where is he? Before she could speak, Ryan stepped into the open, rifle lowered but not surrendered. The sight of him drew instant hostility, weapons rose, energy crackling in the air. Talare shouted, "Wait! Don't shoot! He's not the enemy." Her words hung in the air like lightning before a storm. The commander glared at her, disbelief and fury flashing in his eyes. "You've been corrupted," he hissed. "No human would spare one of us. You lie." "It's the truth," Talare said, stepping closer. "He showed me mercy when I begged for death." The commander raised his hand. "Enough." He turned to Ryan. "Human, surrender yourself." Ryan met his gaze without flinching. "If I do, will you spare her?" The commander smirked. "You are in no position to negotiate." But Talare moved between them, blocking his view. "If you harm him," she said, her voice low but fierce, "you'll have to go through me first." For a long, stunned moment, no one moved. The soldiers looked uncertain. Their own warrior defending an enemy? It was unthinkable. "Talare," the commander said slowly, his tone turning cold, "you shame your people." "Then maybe," she said softly, "we need a little shame." The commander's face hardened, and he gestured sharply. Energy bolts exploded across the ground. Ryan grabbed Talare and dove behind a rock formation as the air filled with plasma fire. "Guess that didn't go well," he muttered. She shot him a quick glare. "You humans always joke when dying?" "Pretty much," Ryan said, returning fire, the plasma rifle glowing in his hands. The exchange lasted minutes, maybe hours, time lost meaning in the chaos. Finally, a blast hit the rock near them, throwing both to the ground. Ryan's vision blurred. He felt hands dragging him, armor-clad soldiers shouting. Talare fought wildly, striking one of her own with an electric surge from her palm, but there were too many. They restrained her, forcing her to her knees. "Don't hurt him," she shouted, her voice breaking. The commander stepped forward, expression unreadable. "Take the human," he ordered. "He'll answer for his crimes against our kind." As Ryan was dragged toward the transport, his gaze met hers. She struggled, screaming, "Ryan." He tried to speak, but the words caught in his throat. Only one sentence managed to escape, weak but clear. "Don't give up." And then he was gone, swallowed by the light of the alien ship as it lifted into the sky. Talare fell to the ground, trembling, staring at the dust swirling where he once stood. For the first time in her life, she felt powerless. The human she once called enemy had become something far greater, the proof that mercy could change even the coldest heart. But now he was a prisoner of her people, and deep inside her, something fierce and human began to awaken. She would not let mercy die that easily. The war was far from over, and this time, she would fight for more than victory. She would fight for him. The stars blurred past the viewport of the alien flagship, streaks of light dancing across the void. Inside the cold metallic corridors, Captain Ryan Hale sat bound to a chair, wrists clamped by energy cuffs that burned faintly against his skin. His face was pale, bruised, but his eyes, steady, defiant, still human. Two alien guards stood near the door, their weapons drawn, keeping him under silent watch. The hum of the ship's engines filled the air, steady and low like a heartbeat. Ryan stared at the floor, his thoughts drifting. He remembered the battlefield, the smoke, Talare's trembling voice whispering, "Please don't kill me, human." It seemed like a lifetime ago. Now he was the one at their mercy, and she was somewhere out there, under their control, or worse. Meanwhile, deep in another part of the ship, Talare stood in front of the High Council chamber, her people's rulers, ancient and proud. Their voices echoed around her, full of contempt and disbelief. "You defend a human?" One hissed. "The very species that slaughtered our colonies?" Talare stood tall, her eyes blazing. "That same human saved my life." "You shame your bloodline." Another spat. "You were a warrior once, and now you speak like one of them." Her fists clenched, but her voice stayed steady. "If being like them means knowing mercy, then maybe we've been wrong all along." The chamber erupted in outrage, their glowing sigils flaring across the walls. "Enough," the lead counselor thundered. "The human will be executed at dawn. You, Talare, will watch, to remember what happens to traitors." Guards moved toward her, but she didn't resist. Her mind was already racing. She had seen how humans fought, not with cruelty, but with heart. And now she would fight like one. That night, under the silent glow of the ship's artificial stars, Talare and moved through the corridors like a shadow. Her armor dimmed to match the darkness, her movements silent and sure. She slipped past guards, overriding doors with stolen codes, her pulse steady. When she reached the detention block, her breath caught. There he was, sitting in the cell, blood dried on his face, his head lowered. "Ryan," she whispered. He looked up slowly, disbelief flashing across his tired eyes. "Talare? How?" "No time," she said, slicing the lock with a surge of blue energy from her gauntlet. The door hissed open, and she rushed to him, unclasping the energy cuffs. He winced as they fell away. "You're insane," he muttered. "Maybe," she replied, helping him to his feet. "But I learned it from a human." They moved fast through the corridors, alarms beginning to echo through the ship, red lights flashing like angry stars. "You know they'll kill you for this," Ryan said as they ran. "I know," she answered, "but I'd rather die for mercy than live for hate." He looked at her, a faint smile tugging at his lips. "Guess I'm a bad influence. Or the best one I ever had," she said softly. They reached the hangar, just as soldiers poured in from every entrance. Talare shoved Ryan behind a shuttle and opened fire, her plasma bolts cutting through the darkness. "Go," she shouted. "I'm not leaving you." Ryan yelled back, firing at the advancing troops. A blast hit near them, throwing both to the floor. Talare rolled to her knees, blood streaking down her temple. "Ryan," she cried, grabbing his arm. "The shuttle, now." They stumbled inside as the hangar doors began to close. Talare slammed her hand onto the controls, overriding the safety locks. The ship roared to life, engines blazing blue. As they lifted off, alien fighters appeared in pursuit, their weapons lighting up the void. "Hang on," Ryan shouted, taking the controls. The shuttle weaved through the enemy fire, explosions lighting the endless dark. Talare manned the rear cannons, her eyes fierce, hands steady. For every ship that struck, she struck back harder, faster, not for war, but for freedom. Finally, they broke through the blockade, the stars opening wide before them. Behind them, the alien flagship burned, crippled by its own fire. Ryan exhaled slowly, his hands trembling on the controls. "We did it," he whispered. Talare looked at him, her silver eyes shining. "No, you did it. You showed me what it means to be human." He turned to her, smiling weakly. "And you showed me what it means to be brave." For a long moment, neither spoke. Just the hum of the ship, the stars glowing ahead. Then Talare reached out and placed her hand over his. "Where do we go now?" she asked quietly. Ryan looked out into the endless dark. "Anywhere that needs a little mercy," he said. As their small ship disappeared into the horizon of stars, a soft light followed in their wake. The last spark of two soldiers who had defied everything their worlds had told them. And somewhere far behind, on the burned fields of two dying empires, a whisper began to spread. That a human spared an alien. That an alien saved a human. And that maybe, mercy wasn't weakness at all. Maybe it was humanity's greatest weapon. Maybe it was the beginning of peace. And for the first time in countless wars, the galaxy dared to hope.